Welcome back to Shanghai, where on the grid we are seeing the depth of significance of this V8 supercar event in China. It's not just about the logistics of taking a full championship round and 32 cars from Australia to China. There's a lot of other important dealing going on in the background here, because we have state ministers from South Australia and Queensland. The Deputy Premier of Queensland, Terry McEnroth, has just made a speech, and of course the Minister of Defence, Senator Robert Hill, is over there in an official capacity. John Large, one of the FIA representatives, and is of course from Australia, one of Australia's great and well-known motorsport officials, is there with Tony Cochrane. Now let's hear from Senator Robert Hill.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in recent years many bridges have been built between Australia and China. Now we have the latest bridge, which is motorsport.
尊敬的各位嘉宾、女士们、先生们，中国和澳大利亚两国之间的关系发展得一直非常好，而今天我们的合作领域又涉及到了赛车。
I'd like to thank the Shanghai Municipal Government for welcoming this unique Australian sporting event to China, and for providing us with this magnificent circuit and facilities.
在这里呢，我要感谢上海市人民政府能够把我们 V8 的超级房车赛带到了中国，同时能向我们的赛事提供这么一流的赛车场。
This is a wonderful occasion for us to showcase Australian products and services to China and to the world. And in return, we would like to invite all Chinese motor racing fans to visit Australia in the future, and we give us the opportunity to show the same hospitality that we've experienced here.
我们感到很高兴能够受到邀请到上海来，同时呢，我们也是希望能够借这个机会向上海市人民展示我们澳大利亚最杰出的产品和服务。同时，我也希望邀请所有中国的车迷有机会到澳大利亚来，我们一定会热情地款待各位。
I congratulate all those involved in presenting this event, and I wish all such parties success.
我再一次地对各位的辛勤工作表示感谢。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the V8 Supercar Championship Series, a very warm welcome to our new Chinese fans.
各位尊敬的嘉宾、女士们、先生们，代表 V8 超级房车赛，我衷心地欢迎各位新的上海的车迷们。
I am very proud that our first international race is in the beautiful city, the powerhouse, the economic powerhouse of Asia, Shanghai, China.
我感到非常的荣幸，能够把我们海外首次的 V8 房车赛在上海这个亚洲的经济发展中心之一举行。
I would particularly like to thank the Greenland Group, the Shanghai government, and the people of China for their wonderful hospitality in welcoming all the teams, our drivers and our officials here this week.
Kelly's got the inside run.
Another shocking start for Mark Scaife, who drops back to 5th position behind Russell Ingall. Stephen Richards has got it wide off the line. Big problems back in the pack here. Jason Bright is one of the cars, the Brightech car involved. That's the second time in 2 race meetings that he's ended up tangled up with one of his own cars. Matthew White, the driver on this occasion. I think it was Steve Owen at Eastern Creek.
Jamie Whincup got away to a healthy start also. He's nicely in the mix, probably about 6th place. He's right in behind Radicic. Seaton got a nice one as well. Cameron McConville's in there. Greg Ritter, Paul Dumbrell, Max Wilson. But Stephen Richards, 3 from 3. Boy, is he good from the line. Our round winner from Barbagallo in Perth.
Chemist Medical, I think that's a front headlight unit on the ground at turn 1.
So they settle into a rhythm now. Baird is up in a reasonable position around about the 15th mark. Rick Kelly well placed also, the best he's been all weekend, but they're all chasing Stephen Richards. Damage to the front of Matthew White's car.
And that headlight assembly's out of that car, and I just heard a report that it's on the road somewhere, so they may need to clear that before they come through. They're on the run down the back straight now for the first time, so look for moves in the braking area down to turn 12.
All jostling for position, looking for the big inside run. Richards, Todd Kelly, Marcus Ambrose, Russell Ingall, Mark Scaife, Paul Radisich, Jamie Whincup playing with the big boys this weekend and doing well. Then it's Glenn Seaton, Cameron McConville. That's your top 10.
I think Lowndes has got a misfire in his engine as well. Standing lap time for Stephen Richards, a 1:55.3. Tight margin, 0.3 of a second back to Todd. He's right on him into the first corner. Marcus in there as well.
This is the closest we've seen Ambrose to the front runners all weekend. And so too Ingall. Greg pointed out earlier, Ingall might be the man to watch.
Very sketchy.
Holden, Ford. Castrol, Perkins, HRT and the two Stone Brothers Fords. And dramas for Lowndes.
So he's managed to whack somebody on the opening lap. But he was also talking about a misfire. That's a lot of damage on the bonnet of that car and probably around the top of the radiator.
Yeah, there's something coming out with lost water pressure as well, Craig. I think she's dead, mate.
That's Campbell. They're seeing that on the telemetry on the computer screens back in the garage, so they've picked that up and that'll be a shutdown and out of the car. Russell Ingall's running with his teammate Marcus Ambrose as well. Two Holdens, two Fords at the top. They're very evenly matched. Here's the zinger replay of the start. Watch Richards. He's got it totally wired here this weekend. A good leap and away he goes. Notice that absolutely no wheel spin, and Scaife, an absolute shocker.
How? Why? Why does that happen?
Well, he hasn't quite got the throttle percentage and the engagement of the clutch right, the pickup point on the clutch move. There's 101 reasons why a start can be messy. Speaking of messy starts, back in this pack, you've got very congested here, and there's Matthew White. Looked like he might have got into the back of one of the BOC cars. So I think it was one of the BOC cars that actually tagged Jason Bright. Not sure whether that was John or
21,
Brad.
21 Brad Jones, yeah. Another lap down in this 30 lap of the final one in Shanghai, and Richards has still been able to maintain his lead, but it's tight, isn't it? Look at Ambrose. Great run through turn one, closes right up on the back of Todd Kelly.
The radio message to Craig Lowndes from Roland Dane before this race started was, let's just put all the dramas of race 2 behind us and try and get a result and some points. Gee, that's tough.
Well, it is, Rusty. It's sort of, when you start back there, you're always going to be in I guess, a high percentage of, having an accident. I don't know what happened in front of us, but it was a concertina effect, and I just try to be really easy and gentle through turn one. I was following Dave Bernard. He stopped suddenly, which I don't know whether he hit someone, but yeah, look, that's unfortunately the way it goes.
The damage itself with the tight turnaround between here and Darwin, will it be hard for the Triple Eight team?
No, I think the car's actually not that bad. It's busted a radiator, so although it looks bad, I think it's very superficial. So we'll get it going and see what happens. But that's our weekend, so I'm looking forward to getting home to Nat and the kids. So yeah, look, that's what happens.
After a brilliant round at Eastern Creek, a tough run in Shanghai.
Thank you.
Yeah, the higher you are, the harder the fall. Round win at Eastern Creek. 2 DNFs from 3 starts. He went from 4th in the championship to 6th before this race. Now that one will hurt him.
The fastest man out there at the moment is actually Jason Bright. He's done a 52 neat, but nobody's got any great pace at this point. They won't have particularly flash tyres in this opening segment of the race, and it is substantially hotter.
So a hectic opening couple of laps. And a tremendous start from Stephen Richards sees him out in front and leading this pack. The WPS Ford driver David Bernard, it's been a frustrating weekend, so he is over with. But at the front, it's far from over. Look at Stephen Richards, the defensive inside line. Kelly sweeps to the outside. These two came together, almost came together, and Kelly was able to get under him in the opening race. And Ambrose is lining up for a shot as well.
Yeah, Marcus went back out for the traditional race line there and let the other two guys argue. He's looking for the fast way round. Stephen was very defensive. Compulsory pit stop window is now open, so at some point you'll start to see various people peel in, but that makes for an interesting strategy question for some of them. Murphy is talking on the radio at the moment about high water temperatures. They're asking him to...
I don't want to stop.
They're They're asking him to find some cool air. He's back in 19th, tucked up behind John Bowe.
I think that was radio communication from Marcus Ambrose to his team. They've asked him to come in this lap, and he said, no, I don't want to stop. He is right in the mix. He's right in the thick of it.
Spoke just a few moments ago to Phil Keed, engineer for Jason Bright at Ford Performance Racing. He says of the bank of tyres they have left, they probably are running their best set now on Jason's car. They flat spotted a tyre in qualifying, or the last race I should say, so they're down in rubber terms, and what they are definitely going to do is run the gauntlet here with Jason Bright, try and keep him out there as long as possible and use that ploy in strategy terms.
Certainly worked for them in the previous race with his teammate Greg Ritter, didn't it, Compo?
Yeah, and I kind of guessed from his lap speed that he had his better set on now, and from a strategic viewpoint, definitely better to just stay out there, do good lap speed, and he's in the mid-51s, which is pretty handy.
This is interesting. There's a bit of conversation going on with the Stone Brothers camp. They're telling Marcus Ambrose he has to pit now. Does he obey the orders? Yes, he does. The others come in as well. Oh, pressure's on the teams here.
And watch this, because they can all run into each other very easily here.
Problems on the front stretch.
That's a bad move there, boys.
Oh, Garth Tander.
No, it is, Marcus. There's nothing I can do about it, mate. Out of my control.
And that was Ambrose saying it was a bad call. He's saying it's a bad move.
Castrol team. Good stop for Stephen Richards.
Yeah, it sure was, Lee. Around about 4.8 seconds, they changed the tyres down the passenger side of that car. It's going to be interesting to see now if he can get out ahead of Marcus Ambrose.
Well, Richards is right at pit in. He serviced. Ambrose is right at pit out.
Marcus had good car speed. That's why he wanted to go on with it. He felt that he could make a few tenths in this clear segment now, and all he's going to do here is be mixed up in the pack unless he can
Marcus,
jump.
Wait.
Oh, no! He's hit Richards in pit lane. He's knocked over the markers.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Like you saw Lee did, he went for two tyres down the left-hand side. Paul Forkey said, Marcus, wait, but he kept going.
I don't know that race control will be too thrilled about that. We'll have to wait and see how they view it once they've had a good look at it, but car controller was saying, wait. Here it is. Stephen Richards and Todd Kelly line astern, and at this point Marcus needs to yield.
Look at the officials having to jump out of the way. He nearly ran over Vinny.
However, he did address it, and he did lift the throttle on the exit so that he could slot in behind, but Vinny nearly wore the dunce's hat then, didn't he?
Good quick reaction. And we're hearing word that Rick Kelly is buried. There is the Team Buick entry.
And they've just called Scaife pit this lap because it could be a safety car scenario, so they're going to yank him in and rattle the wheels and tyres off that for left-hand side only for Scaife. Trouble for Ingle in the gravel.
And Scaife and Ingle were together, and there's Cito as well. They're all diving for the pits.
There must be something all over the road there for the experienced guys to go off at the pit entry.
Wow, crazy stuff in race 3.
There's going to be a lot more to that story. Be curious to see what that was all about. At turn 14, you can go straight ahead there in the pit lane entry, and then it's got a 90-degree left that runs down the hill.
Scaife stop. Like clockwork.
You're right.
Beautiful work from HRT.
Safety car has been deployed. Good stop for Scaife. Seaton rejoins as well.
Radicic service. Both Super Cheap Auto cars are in also.
Scaife in behind Ambrose.
Mass congestion in pit lane at the time too, with guys diving in and out of their respective pit boxes, but someone who may have made some gains there, I think, was Cameron McConville. He came in behind Seaton. Some slick work by the Gary Rogers crew got him out ahead. Seaton's car a little slower to come down off the jacks. Both guys changing rear tyres.
Paul Radicic, good stop for him. He went out behind Mark Scaife in the exit of pit lane. Also checking tyre temperatures. A lot hotter today, but race 2, the Dunlop boys said the temperature left rear was up around 85. Marcus Ambrose tyre that came off that car, especially the left rear, which is carrying the temperature, was only in the mid-70s. Dunlop surprised. Maybe that setup change was helping him with tyres, and he did have that pace.
Russell Ingle buried. And the Wright Patton Shakespeare safety car on track. This will tell us why. Look at the Zinger replay.
Ah, he's got a tag.
Whoa.
Oh, dear. Well, that's going to be pretty straightforward. Mark right into the back of Russell Ingall and turns around the Caltex car. Into the gravel trap he goes. And I think that you could almost bet the house on the fact that that'll be a penalty for Mark Scaife.
That has massive championship implications as well for Russell Ingall, because Stephen Richards, who's in the box seat to win this round.
Mate, the call is for a safety car, so just don't panic too much. Just hang with me, will you?
Sounds like he's got the engine running.
It was Barry Hay communicating with Russell Ingall.
You see anyone coming towards it, or else you just seem to be sitting there.
And they're waiting for the crew to arrive to help Russell Ingall out of that gravel trap. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back to Shanghai live right after this. Back at Shanghai, Russell Ingall has been rescued from the gravel trap and is in the Stone Brothers box now.
Yeah, and they're doing all four. Russell was in debate with Barry on the way in to the pit lane as to whether they just do the rears only. He called for rears only, but there's gravel in it everywhere.
Mate, turn it off, don't cook it up. I'll give you the nod when I get all this stuff out of here.
So much gravel there in the back.
Left front tyres all right. Do you want it to stay on, mate?
Just to confirm for you, I've spoken to the officials here in pit lane while the safety car is underway. The Marcus Ambrose incident on the exit of pit lane is under investigation. So is the clash here between Mark Scaife and Russell Ingall. A word from the officials is that it will not be adjudicated on until they finish dealing with the safety car period. They want to make sure that's under control first. Then they'll take a closer look at this happening here. Now, Rob Starr from HRT, the team boss, says to me, Mark Scaife reported nothing in the way of a problem brake-wise on the entry to pit lane here. Scaife has said nothing about the incident thus far.
Timely moment to welcome 888 Racing's Craig Lowndes to the Network 10 commentary box. Welcome, mate. Glad to see you here. Rather see you out on the track. What do you make of that incident?
Well, look, it is an interesting corner, because really you got guys on race line trying to complete a lap, guys trying to fire into the pit entry as quick as they can, and it is a little bit of a drama, because you've got to quite judge the guys actually wanting to continue on a circuit or the guys want to actually go up pit entry. So, look, like my opinion, just having a quick look at it there, looked like Mark is in the wrong. You know, he's taking, he's hit Russell, and Russell's ended up in the gravel trap and ended up the worst of the two.
Been a tough weekend for you, hasn't it?
Oh, look, it's fantastic. I heard about you guys having an air conditioning room, so I thought I'd come and have a look. Yeah, definitely we got a bad start. Dave Bernard got me off the line and ran into turn one. Roland Dane had told me to just come on, let's
all over it. We'll sort it out this end. We'll make you stay hell as well.
Try and consolidate and get some points for the last race here, and we tried to do that. I left a little gap going into turn one. There was a concertina effect. I'm not 100% sure what went on as we were watching Glenn's seat, and there hit the wall. He actually did clamp the wall, so
quite heavily with the front right, and it looked like he did it on his own. So I talked about this before, Craig. When I walked around the track the other day, I could see that there was a bit of a recipe for disaster there, because it's as the lights are out now on the safety car, it's a very fast approach. The grip level goes down when you come off the racetrack, and it's a 90-degree left-hander. We're about to restart the race, and there certainly was some drama there.
Let's see what pressure Kelly will apply. Will Ambrose have a shot? Stephen Richards is a man they are chasing, and Kelly's been good down into one. So too is Ambrose. Ambrose argued the call to come in when he did. Look at Kelly on the inside.
Marcus was very keen to stay out there with that extra speed that he had. He's given Todd a little tap there in the turn 2 part of that complex. He probably felt that he could have made another couple of tenths or two on that set of tyres, but as it turned out when the safety car was deployed, I think this call has ended up being the correct one for Stone Brothers.
Scaife is behind this man. Radicic is 5th, Wilson 6th, Ritter, McConville, Whincup, Seaton. That's the 10 at the moment, but these 4 are out by themselves.
Quite a few of the key players here have managed to hold back a minimum of a couple of decent tyres for this last segment of the final race. So very young or new tyres.
Thoughts on the track, mate? Have you found it?
Marcus Ambrose is going to get a black flag for the incident in pit lane, and he'll get a drive through. So that was the reason I just went quiet there for a moment. Sorry, Lee.
That's all right. What do you think, Craig? Track, like it?
Yeah, track's fantastic. It's got a high grip level. It's we burnt the clutch up in the first race today, or the second race overall, and that's why we started back at the grid today. Very, very fast. We actually thought that it'd be quite clearly some good, quite
We're going to drive through, Marcus. Come through the pit lane this time. Through the pit lane.
quite clearly into this hairpin. It'll be quite easy to overtake, but as you can see, the cars are actually fairly even. So Morris and Glenn Seaton.
Yeah, that was on for a while. Paul was just sliding in for 100 metres or so there, and he couldn't pull it up on the inside of the road, and he's given Glenn a tap. So it was as if it wasn't tough enough for Seaton after making contact with the wall down there at turn 14. He's now off the edge of the road, and Paul Morris has got a pile of damage on the front of the Sirame entry.
Damage on the front of the Tom Commodore as well.
Been a bit chaotic, this one, hasn't it?
Definitely. I think everyone will go away this weekend and have a good look at what we did and what we've done over the weekend, and come back next year a lot smarter, a lot wiser. And the cars will have been fantastic. There's a great crowd here. It's been sensational to see everyone come out and support us.
It does sound like we're in for more drive-throughs here. It's not going to be just Marcus Ambrose. The word from the officials on the pit wall is that Mark Scaife will serve one shortly, and also one for car 17, Stephen Johnson. And the reason for that is the absolute congestion in pit lane made it difficult for Stephen to exit and cross from the cement section onto the tarmac on this incredibly wide pit lane. So he went most of the distance down the lane on the concrete. They wanted him back over in the fast lane.
That takes Scaife out of this equation, if that is the case, and it leaves it for Stephen Richards and Todd Kelly to fight over the round, and it puts the Rat up into third.
And they're just processing these one at a time in my headset now. They're going to give Stephen Johnson a drive-through penalty for what Greg just described, for driving through the slow lane in the pit lane. And I think next cab off the rank will be car 2. They're just issuing him sort of like on a ticker tape down there at the moment.
As you can see now, going into turn 12, this is a first gear hairpin, so you're going down from 280 sort of plus kilometres an hour. First gear, accelerating very hard out of here, and that's probably your best opportunity for passing opportunities. So you can see Steve Richards there, just protecting his line, just sort of creeping over towards the middle of the track. He doesn't seem to have as much horsepower as the two cars behind him, but he's done a fantastic job to keep his nose clean.
Braking-wise and balance-wise, his car looks to have been pretty good all weekend, but a good observation, Craig. I reckon he's maybe a couple of Ks down on these blokes.
Here we go. Great move, Todd Kelly. He'd been looking for many laps for that. Similar place to where he executed it yesterday, but perhaps 100, 150 metres earlier. He is now the new race leader. Boy, that was a slick move.
Great move.
It's a fantastic move into turn 1. As you can see, he's already pulling away from Richo, so he must have been holding him up. Turn 1 is actually very, very difficult in the sense that it tightens itself up, but you enter turn 1 very, very quick. It's like a third gear right on the limiter, and you actually car wiggles and moves right around through 1 until it tightens up, where you got to go back to 2nd, get it down into 3. So it's quite a difficult little corner.
At West Point, Falcon of Stephen Johnson's is making the long trip down pit lane. Dick Johnson is with me. Your thoughts on what happened? It was so busy in pit lane at the time, obviously.
Oh, mate, I really don't know. I don't even bother wearing a headset anymore. I get too upset. So it's a bit difficult, but you have good days and you have bad days, and it looked as though it was going to be half a good one, but it's turning the opposite way at the moment.
Boys did a good job to get Stephen's car out on the grid for this race, and I know Glenn was looking through his tyre bank to see what his tyres were like for the final race. What's the general thoughts on things in the final one, given Glenn's scenario?
Well, Glenn obviously just got taken out then by another ambitious driver, and it seems to be the nature of the weekend. But we'll just keep trucking on and see how we go.
Thanks, Dick.
No worries.
Paul Wheel getting a tag there from, I think, Max Wilson in turn 1, and meanwhile Mark Scaife will get a black flag and will serve a drive through.
And the same thing just then.
Richards trying to come back on Kelly.
The curve hard. Something just happens to the tyre coming in.
Mark communicating that he's coming in. The battle's on at the front.
We can't do any work on the car. This is a drive through. If you've got damage, you then have to come back in.
And look at this, we see the Team Kiwi Racing Commodore of Paul Radicic in a podium position for the first time in his new team. There are some surprises in this race. You've got Radicic in 3rd, Max Wilson is 4th, Whincup is 5th, and Ellery fighting through, he's up into 8th.
Oh, gee, Mark almost went straight into the back of Richards. Now I know why he's been on the radio talking so much, and that's why he dropped out of that group. So that'll be a flat spot, I imagine, on those tyres, and just compounds what's turning into a disastrous 3rd race for him. Look at this gap closing up. There There goes Mark having served, but remember he's probably got some damage on those tyres. And not allowed to work on the car during the drive-through when you're serving a penalty.
Talk about a mix-up at the top. You run down the order after the top three. Wilson 4, Whincup 5, McConville 6, Ritter 7, Ellery 8, Bright 9 and Wills 10. What a very different looking top 10.
Robbie Starr, that incident Mark just mentioned during his drive-through with the front left tyre, was that during the Ambrose incident or the incident with Russell Ingall?
No, the left front then he just damaged then. He thinks we've Richo at the moment then, but obviously with the Russell thing, we're not, it didn't look real good, and we thought Russell was coming in, and obviously he turned the corner, and the pit entry speed's a lot quicker than doing the corner.
I guess the most difficult thing has been the starts for Mark more than anything to put himself in that position.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously that anyone that's been on the inside of the track today seems to have struggled, and unfortunately, as soon as you get one bad one, it gets harder as it goes on. So, the car speed's been good, but unfortunately, we have to get it.
Todd Kelly leads the way, but there's some movers in the pack. Ritter's got past McConville in the Valvoline Commodore, and Ellery is coming.
Simon Wills will get a drive-through as well for that incident that we saw before in car 168.
We are at the halfway point, race 3, round 5 in Shanghai. We've got special guest Craig Lowndes with us, and we'll be back in just a moment. And this is very costly for him. What was going to be a good result after he made very strong progress through the field is now over. And at the front of the pack, there is plenty of pressure on. Todd Kelly is enjoying a handy margin of about 2 seconds over Stephen Richards, but Richards is under increasing pressure from Paul Radisich as the two Kiwis going at it for that second spot. And this is what recently happened to Glenn Seaton.
That's very unusual. Quite sure what that's all about. It'll be something to do with contact. Car number 67, Paul Morris, he's going to get a black flag for a drive-through penalty as well. So plenty of people visiting the pit lane for an extra time this afternoon. This is an outstanding run from Paul Radisich, isn't it? There's the margins, first, second, third, fourth. Another great run again for Jamie Whincup.
This is fantastic from Jamie Whincup to be in that position while we were away. He put on a very sophisticated move on Wilson. Meanwhile, look at the Rat pushing Richards along, just giving him a friendly nudge, saying, I'm here and I want through. Kelly now increases that margin, 2.2 seconds the lead, and Whincup isn't out of a top 3 spot. He is reeling Radisich in.
Whincup's the fastest of these lead guys, but Jason Bright's still in the 51s. He's 8th, 51.6 on the last lap for him.
The Shanghai experience is over early for both 888 Falcons. Craig Lowndes is up in the commentary box. Stephen, you're here with us in pit lane. What's happened to your car?
I'm not 100% sure. Breaking down in the hairpin in the car, just wanted to pull left, so something in the front suspension's broken, but it's so disappointing. I was going to win that, but nothing was going to stop me today, but unfortunately it did, and just seems to be the way. We just got no luck, but working hard. I feel sorry for the boys more than anything. But maybe next time. And I just want to say hello to Kerry and the boys at home.
Hard luck, Stephen Ellery. Daryl?
Keys well. Greg Murphy's not probably had the best of weekends so far. You've made an engine change in that car and he's come from 31st now up to 10th.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty good on that side. We've had a pretty disastrous day up till then, but no, we worked pretty hard over the break between the two races and whipped another motor in, and plus a fair few other things that were broken. So for Murph to do a good job now, it's sensational.
What about that car? There was talk at Eastern Creek you were thinking about putting the Lowry engine in that car as well. You've still got the 18-degree engine in it. When will it take the new engine, or why didn't you do it?
Well, we didn't do it this weekend because of we only had a few days to turn the cars around, and I guess we're stuck for time there, and there's nothing wrong with the 18-degree engine at all. It's done a great job, and as you can see, the one we put in today has been doing an excellent job as well. So it will change between now and Darwin, so it should be good for Darwin.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you. Cheers.
It's Paul Morris exiting pit lane. Give credit to his driver too. Talking to Keys' wheel there, Greg Murphy has come from the back of the pack to be in the top 10 in 9th place as Morris rejoins.
there's quite a bit of reward for a number of drivers here who have been down on luck in the recent past. You know, Radisich up here in third, Whincup in fourth, Max Wilson driving the Tony Longhurst car, the Team Dynamic entry in fifth, Greg Ritter, Cam McConville. Good to see some variety, and here's a great move by Jamie Whincup down the inside of Max Wilson at that hairpin that Craig was talking us through before, which is a great passing opportunity here.
That was very Lowndes-esque, the move you pulled on Ambrose, mate.
Yeah, at first, the brake marker I did on Marcus was a little bit more, I guess, you almost say desperate than that one. Jamie had a very clear run into that hairpin, but look, he's done a great job. He's running around at fourth at the moment, still pulling some good times, very identical to the leaders.
This is all that remains of the right rear tyre that came off Glenn Seaton's West Point Racing Falcon. As you can see, it's absolutely disintegrated. Just some small remnants of the sidewalls on this Dunlop tyre. I've had a word to the crew that work on car 18. They tell me this, they believe, is a result of bodywork, damaged bodywork on the tyre. Remember, Glenn had that off coming into pit lane and clouded the wall. They believe the bodywork down the side of the car was damaged, and it's eventually cut that tyre away.
Looking back at Paul Radisich, this would be his best finish for Team Kiwi if he can stay where he is. The guy behind him, it's his best ever result if he can stay there in the Dodo Commodore.
I think Glenn Seaton's going to get a penalty here as well. Yeah, car 18 confirmed a drive-through penalty, so maybe pit lane infringement, I understand, for Glenn Seaton.
And the wow Commodore for Max Wilson, the little Brazilian. He's running hot as well. And we've got just over 10 laps to go here live in Shanghai. Max Wilson in the wow Commodore, considering his opening race of the weekend ended prematurely with fluid gushing from the front of the car. It is going very nicely now.
Great recovery, 14th in race 2. And now up here in 5th place, big bundle of points here. Talking of points, the way they stand at the moment, Todd Kelly would be the round winner if he stays where he is. Stephen Richards second, and it'll be a newcomer to the podium for this year, Paul Radisich, in 3rd place. And I think, I need to double check my stats, but if Todd Kelly wins this race, I think that's the 50th round win for HRT. You'll actually have your name against quite a few of those back in the old days.
Thank you.
And it'll be the first round.
Just trying to find some positives for you, mate. You should put a bit of a positive spin on your afternoon.
It'll be the first round win for HRT since Hidden Valley last year.
And that was Todd as well.
Yeah, it was. Greg Ritter's had a successful weekend, especially after his result in the first race. Now it's even better. He sits 6th, and this isn't a challenge for position. Paul Morris is out of the equation. Meanwhile, these two guys, the Stone Brothers pair, are trying to force their way back through the field. Greg.
An unfortunate end to the weekend for the Dodo Racing Team entry of Jason Richards. This crew did a wonderful job to get it out there for the final race. What's happened?
Yeah, it looks like we've had an engine failure. The oiling system for one of the rockers is fractured, and it meant the rocker didn't receive any oil, and then eventually it seized up. So
I think that's linked to the previous accident, Jason, in race 2?
I don't think so. I think a fracture of oil line, you know, is probably something different. I mean, you never know. I mean, obviously it wouldn't have helped Rusty, but it's just a shame. We had such good car speed out there, and it's just another weekend. It's just gone bigging.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, mate.
He's a guy that should have had better results this year. His car's been good. He's very fit. He works very hard at it, but for some reason he just keeps being Johnny in the wrong spot at the wrong time. It's very unfortunate for him.
Well, his teammate has a very big smile on his face at the moment. If he can stay in there for another 8 laps.
On, Marcus, you're making a good point. You've got a pretty quick car. Just keep going and keep overtaking.
See, Marcus at the moment where he's 16th on for 148 points, and that's the reason they're hustling him. And this is for position on Anthony Tratt, 15th.
Craig Lowndes, are you a guy that likes a lot of radio contact between, we hear it up here between you and Campbell Little, or you'd rather less?
No, well, I actually, as a driver, like as much information getting sent to me as possible. You haven't heard a reply from Marcus, but you know, Cam has always said to me, if I don't want to talk, or if I'm in the middle of a corner, just press the button. They can hear that, so they at least know that we've heard the message and they can get on with it.
Russell Ingall's going to be heading into the pits pretty soon. The team waiting in the garage here. They've got covers to cover the engine. We know they are going to take the airbox cover off the engine on that car. They've got screwdrivers ready. Not exactly sure what is wrong with it. Also, Mark Scaife's team had a front left-hand wheel out for that car with the damage he did earlier on. They took it back in. Say Mark Scaife, stay out and get points because you're ahead of Mark Ambrose in the championship. Now the wheel is back out, so it looks like Scaife will be in.
Yeah, I just got a confirmation over the radio that they're going to bring Mark in because he feels that the tyre is dangerous at the moment. He and Marcus both share 148 points, but they feel because of his lack of speed that he's going to be passed anyway, so you may as well come in and get it serviced. That was the current update, but you never know. They have been known to change these things on the run.
Zinger replay here. Jason Bright getting on the inside of Cameron McConville. Bright hasn't mucked around in this third and final race either. Bright started 20th in the Cat Ford, and that was a position move for 7th.
It started out a bit wild though. He had to catch it
wobbles
when he first jumped on the brake pedal. That wanted to swap ends with him, but he brought it back under control. I had a feeling for a minute there he was going to whistle on by the corner with an extra 30 or 40 Ks, but he got the job done.
He did a great job going in the brake market, because really that is the only place that you can do some passing opportunity. But you've got to be careful. You've seen Mark Scaife lock a wheel, and when you lock a wheel around here, you've got to come into the pits.
Murphy grabs McConville also. So the great run for Greg Murphy from the back of the pack through, and he got through on the same corner at the hairpin that Bright got McConville as well.
One thing I noticed in the first race was that your car was very good when it came to being, hungry and using a lot of the road. You were able to pound over those curbs like that one we saw there at turn 12, and the same at the final corner. You could brush right up against the tyres. You've got the damping working very well on that car, and it's not a rough track, but over the bumps provided by the ripple strips, you were flying.
Yeah, we had a good race car this weekend, and as Stevie Ellery said, it's a shame for the boys. We come here and we got told that 8 was a lucky number, and well, that's been unlucky for us this weekend. But as you heard Dick say, sometimes you win them, sometimes you lose them. For us, we'll get on with it. But we did have a great car.
Scaife receiving the necessary fix on the front left for that massive lockup we saw at the end of the back straight just before he served his drive-through penalty. Now that's done, and he can get on with the final 7 laps of this event.
Be a bit crestfallen, I'm sure, starting in such a strong position going into this final race, and then making that error, touching up Russell, copping a penalty, flat spotting a tyre. Some evil starts, so that's something that he needs to work on with the team. Steve Ellery, your teammate down in...
It looks like they've got him back out on the track, so it's great for the boys to be able to get one of the cars running around and circulating, and giving us, if anything, good data for next year. It's something that's, as I said earlier, that's really come back next year. I think every team will be a lot better prepared.
Over the course of the weekend, the Gary Rogers Motorsport crew have made some fairly aggressive changes to car 33 of Cameron McConville. They initially started with a softer spring setting and then worked with a heavier rear bar. Then they went completely the other way. But they found the car offered nothing in either setup term in terms of a benefit for Cameron McConville. Now in the later stages of these races, he's finding that the car tends to fall over on its left rear tyre through these closing radius corners. No word on the radio from Cameron to his engineer, Phil Curtis. Phil just looked at me a moment ago and said, hey, sorry, we're not fast enough.
Guy who is quick at the moment is still Greg Murphy, 51.6 on the last lap for Greg in 8th position. The leader of the race, Todd Kelly, 52.1, 52.1 also for Stephen Richards, a 152.3 for Paul Radisich. So Greg continues to march along. He's closing up on Jason Bright in 7th at the moment.
If they stay as they are, it will be a podium not only for the race but for the round for Paul Radisich and Team Kiwi Racing, and that would be a best for that team in the history, the short history of that team.
The other fellow in the 51s, just like it was in race 1, a bloke who was in the mid to high 51s was you lunatic, and right at the end of the race you were flying, but a 51.6 for Ambrose. So that car's strong at the end.
It is, and it's something that, you've got to be careful over the course of the race. Yesterday it was only 22 laps. Today it's 30 laps. And, although I haven't done a lot of sweating today, but really it's, you've got to be very careful with your tyres. You've got to look after them. You've got to get your pit stop out of the way. You've got to get a good car balance and then into a rhythm and look after the car.
When we were on board with Greg then, you could see a lever up off the steering column up behind the top left-hand corner of the steering wheel. That's a handbrake that a lot of the cars have in them, and the drivers use them to help launch them away off the start. They actually put the car in first gear, load up the clutch a little bit and use the handbrake, and then release the handbrake to get the car away. Some people are finding that aids them at the start. I know you don't want to talk about it, but do you have something like this in your car?
Yeah, we definitely do. We've got a button though. There's a passing opportunity going just through end of turn 2 into 3.
Yeah. So that was Bright on his teammate Greg Ritter, I think, for position. Yeah, so you've got one of these doobies?
Yeah, we got a button, and like everything in motor racing, you get to try and find your best advantage you can, and starts are becoming very, very critical.
Just a reminder while we're on board with Greg Murphy, for all of you who have spent $30 or more at Super Cheap Auto and have entered the V8 Muscle Car Mania comp, here's your chance for some bonus entries once again. HSV LS2 is the code word for this weekend. You can see it just there on the left on Murph's dash. SMS it to 1977 5151 in Australia or 8844 in New Zealand. And look at Murph on the inside of Greg Ritter. He's chasing Jason Bright, and this forward surge continues for Greg Murphy.
It's going well, isn't it? It's a great recovery after a shocker, and we always thought that he was going to be strong here from his speed early in the weekend, but just race 2 was pretty shocking for him, but he's on the march.
Well, obviously HRT have made the right decision as far as Mark Scaife goes for championship points. This tyre, you can see the different layers, the outer rubber of the tyre, then the belt, and it's down to the metal here. There's a bubble here. It was about to explode at any time, I guess, so it could have done huge damage to that car if this had flown apart down that fast back straight.
Greg Murphy was on the braking limit then into the hairpin turn 12. Craig, he didn't have a millimetre left under brakes.
No, it's actually, like although it's a hard braking, you've got a lot of runoff area, but yeah, Murph, as you can see, the car was really squirming around on the brakes and he was using everything he's got.
A 52.6, but remember he was mixed up with traffic there on that lap, so he's now to 7th and chasing Bright. So the order is Todd Kelly, Steve Richards, Paul Radisich, Jamie Whincup, Max Wilson, Jason Bright, Greg Murphy, Greg Ritter, Cam McConville, Brad Jones into the 10 as well, so that's a little bit of sugar for Brad.
Let's keep an eye on the front too, because Stephen Richards is gradually eating into Todd Kelly's lead. He only has 4 laps left, but it's down now to the closest margin it's been in some time, only 1.3 seconds. Has Richo saved something to the end?
Brad was 13th after the first practice, and then he said to me at the end of Friday, I'll drop my usual 20 spots when it comes to qualifying, and he did, so he qualified 29th, then finished 25th in race 1, 17th in race 2, and now inside the top 10 for race 3. So again, he's demonstrating that at the end of the weekend they can get the car to work pretty well, but it's not strong enough in the early part.
Jamie Whincup isn't letting Radisich get away either. What a performance from those two guys. And it has been, sorry to say this, Craig Lowndes, it's been a Holden weekend.
Well, it has been, and when you really look at the section of the circuit, the Commodores have got a nicer flowing car through the middle part of the circuit. Down this back straight, there's not a lot in it, and under brakes and everything else, but you know, look, they've done all teams have done a great job to come here green with no data, no reference from last year, and really to get it right on the day. Everyone's made tweaks and some changes as the weekend and the course of the races have gone on.
Russell Ingall's got a brake drama with this car, and I think Scaife's on the radio complaining about having trouble pulling his car up as well. He's just in front of your teammate. Here he is running off. This time he doesn't lock up, he actually just runs wide, chooses to run wide, but there's some issue with the car, probably as a result of the contact with Russell. Here we are on board with him. But Ingall's just going to cruise through to the end now. They've actually had a few brake issues this weekend. They were fiddling. Marcus told Darrell in an interview yesterday that he would be mucking around with brake master cylinders. They've been trying different brake pads, as I understand it. They opted for something more aggressive to pull him up more efficiently down into turn 12. But a few people finding that it's tricky to get a good brake balance for at this track.
Well, it's something you've got to be conscious of at the start of the race with a lot of fuel in the back of the car, and then as the fuel load comes out, the tyres start to degrade, so you got to then play with the bias, play with your sway bars, try and keep a happy medium.
This is down to 1.1 seconds now, and I'd suggest it's less than that. Richards is definitely catching Todd Kelly. Kelly has had some very impressive pace this weekend, whether it be up against his teammate Mark Scaife or Stephen Richards in the opening race of the weekend. But now the Castrol car is closing in, that is for sure.
You can see that Todd's just battling in the mid-corner at the moment, quite obvious in that early part of the turn, but how encouraging is this? We've got different drivers, different car team combinations, all so incredibly close at the back end of this third race, and a couple of fresh names just for spice.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the finishing races of race 1, race 2. Richo wasn't as quick after the pit stops as probably what he'd like, but he definitely comes on strong towards the end of the race, and you can see that now. Todd's scooted away, but now everyone's now caught back up to him, whether he's used up all his tyres.
Yeah, in the middle sector, Stephen was 0.3 quicker on this lap. Be interested to see what they click over as they go across the control line to complete the lap.
Through the field, Ambrose a long way down, but he did a 51.4, pretty quick compared to the rest of the field.
Yeah, that's speedy, 51.1. It's the fastest lap of the race for Marcus Ambrose. and he continues to circulate very quickly. 52.3 for Todd, 52 even, so he was 0.3 of a second quicker on this lap. And then Radisich at 52 even as well. 51.99 for Jamie Whincup, so he's still pushing very hard. Max Wilson at 52.4, Greg.
Just to expand on Craig Lowndes' point there about Stephen Richards, absolutely spot on. His crew chief Barry Ryan cornered me yesterday and said, look, we're really, really impressed with the way this car comes on in the latter part of the race. It's good on a lighter fuel load. And incredibly for Stephen, the key thing, he said, he really kind of collared me. He said, listen, the key thing for us was finishing ahead of our rivals in the championship. It's about points for us here.
And that's exactly the point, because Stephen Richards in every race this weekend has finished ahead of Marcus Ambrose and Russell Ingall. And with their terrible run in this third race, although Ambrose has responded to bounce back up to 13th, Richards is in a very strong position.
That's a flash lap time from Marcus, isn't it? On lap 28 to do a 151.18. It's very encouraging at this late stage.
Be a little bit of anger in that too, wouldn't there? Still some residual anger.
I think you'll see, and you might notice now that it's 2 laps to go. I think Richo may run out of laps. Although he may catch up to Todd, he'll have to put a bit of pressure on him in the last lap to make a passing opportunity.
Todd Kelly will win the round if he stays where he is by 2 points over Stephen Richards. He's as close as he's ever been.
Strong under brakes, isn't he?
Richo's probably, as I said before, he's probably the best person in our category. Very, not desperate, but very, very late.
Look at this, they're coming round. There's only 1 lap to go.
Josh, the leader, is on his last lap.
It's all here, it's all now for Stephen Richards. Can he do something about Todd Kelly? This is for the winner of the round.
Pressure's on here, and the obvious move that could be made is down into the hairpin turn 12, and Todd will already be thinking about that, and he'll make sure he's positioned accordingly. But Stephen definitely starting to close down that gap.
Guess who's here to gather it all up if these two tangle? Paul Radisich is in the box seat as well. Final lap here in Shanghai. What a weekend it has been. What a week it's been for everyone involved. Radisich closes the gap now on Richards. Jamie Whincup still in the mix also.
See, Stephen's got his hands full with Paul at the moment as well. In fact, just in this last couple of corners, the pressure's come off Todd a little bit, and now the focus is on the battle for second, third, rather than first and second.
And Whincup wants his first top 3 result ever. 4th will be his best ever, but he's not satisfied with that. What a weekend for Radisich also. Half a lap left to run.
Huge weekend for the guys in 3rd and 4th and their respective teams, Team Kiwi and the Dodo Racing team.
Todd Kelly is on his way to becoming our 5th different round winner in as many starts. Ambrose won in Adelaide, Murphy won in New Zealand, Richards won in Barbagallo. The guy in between Crompo and I won at Eastern Creek, Craig Lowndes that is. Big breaking duel here, Whincup, Radisich defensive. That was his last roll at it.
And they all managed to do it without tearing each other apart, which was good. They had a go, but no damage done. And I think Todd Kelly is now safe, and a round win for him, and I believe this will be the 50th round win for HRT.
History at Shanghai. First time ever we've had 5 different round winners in as many starts. Kelly cleans up in Shanghai for HRT. Richards 2nd, Radisich 3rd, and that puts Team Kiwi Racing on the round podium as well.
So it's very good for the championship. Well done, guys. Top stuff all weekend. Really, really good.
The words from Stephen Richards, but the HRT boys are celebrating, and rightly so. Their first round win in a year. Jeff Grech right in the middle of his men. Good stuff for those boys. You know a lot of those guys, Craig. It means a lot.
Quite a familiar face, and as you've said, it's been a long time between drinks for these guys. And as you've mentioned, first 5 rounds of championship, different winners every round, and that's just how tough the category's got.
What a start. We checked the VB scoreboard. Kelly, Richards, Radisich. That's what the podium will look like. And Jamie Whincup, well done. Best ever result in a V8 supercar. And Max Wilson for Wow Racing. That is a wow. Top 5 for him. Tony Longhurst and the gang will be delighted with that.